Welcome back, MVP. Strebo here with you from Mutantville.com, and today we're going to talk about what I think are the 10 best horror films of the past decade of the knots, as they've often been referred to. The calendar year 2000 to 2009, with 2010 thrown in as a bonus. I've just come from watching Scream 4, which is the latest of this postmodern look at the horror genre and the slasher subgenre specifically. And since it's the kind of movie that's looked back at, examined the movies of the past 10, 15 years, I thought, well, what better time to give you a glimpse into part of my my thoughts on the top horror films of the past decade. I've been doing this series called the top 50 horror films of the new millennium, and I think I only got through the first 4, and I haven't posted any more since, and that's just a matter of time and making sure. There are a couple movies that I'm still trying to see before I make my final decisions on like the upper films, so I don't want to give you an uninformed opinion, so to speak. But I would say that's neither here nor there, but it's very relevant at the moment. So I'm going to jump to the end, and although these don't represent my top 10 films, they do represent what I think are the best from each calendar year of the knots. So let's start in here. This is where 2000 comes in. Just beating out Audition, by the way, is Cairo. Check out that artwork. This is an old overseas version before it was retitled. Well, not retitled, but Cairo means pulse, then remade in America as Pulse. But this was one of the first creepy Asian ghosty movies, and it also has a very apocalyptic feel to it, and really creeped me out when I watched it. So I thought, man, that's definitely one of the best. (2001) Jeepers Creepers, the best, most original new, not necessarily slasher, but definitely, well, it's kind of a slasher, but it's, a hunter killer guy thing. Jeepers Creepers, the whole movie's a big reveal of it. There's Clive Barker's quote down there at the bottom. This is the most scary, stylish horror movie I've seen in years. I just love the mythology behind it. And there's some really creepy sequences in it. The suspense is good. You really like the characters based around his brother sisters. But whoops, I hit the camera. Never hit the camera. 2002. Oh, just in case you didn't know whom you were talking to. Strebo from MVP, writer director. Who else would be carrying that around, right? 2002 May. I'll make you macaroni and cheese. Check it out. You both love her and fear her at the same time, and she reminds me of every one of my ex-girlfriends for some reason. I wonder if that's what Lucky McKee was thinking about when he did this. But this is not so much what a lot of people would probably say. This wasn't even a horror film, but Wes Craven here says startling, compelling, and truly original. But it's disturbing once you get to the end. The journey it takes you through is quite fascinating. May is very endearing in a lot of ways, but then the ending is very disturbing. Makes it good. And 2003, Shaun of the Dead. Yeah, what is there to say? Definitely the best comedy horror of the past decade. I think Horror Hound, not I think, but I know Horror Hound voted it number 1 best horror film of the new decade, the new millennium, whatever. Definitely one of my favorites. Stays true to all the zombie movie homages, cliches, rules, guidelines, what have you. You can even see it from the title, Shaun of the Dead. You know, I wonder what that could be in reference to. Wink, wink. Dawn of the Dead. Yeah, I mean, and it's not just trying to capitalize on name recognition or being a blatant ripoff, but you know, it's very much a loving homage. But then it's also new and original, and funny. That's the important thing. People get caught up with trying to do homages and looking at the past too much, and you have to think about a way to go forward. Probably Shaun of the Dead represents the best horror comedy since Return of the Living Dead, and it might even be better than Return of the Living Dead. I don't know. I'll have to give it a few more years. It's a good one. 2004, High Tension, aka Hot Tension. Now my years might be a little off on some of these, but I'm trying to go by the general release, but sometimes I just go by the American release. But this was released later in America, so from what I understand it came out in 2004. But this was what I thought was the best slasher of the decade. High Tension. A lot of people really respond to this movie, even people that aren't hardcore horror fans, so to speak. Very tense, very emotionally charged. You believe in the characters, you care about them, you're totally swept along in their journey, their little adventure, and goes beyond the conventions of the slasher genre, turns them on their head without being all postmodern and obvious and hit you over the head with it with a hammer kind of way that the Scream movies are, or at least the way the Scream franchise has become. They very much hit you over the head with it. Like in Scream 4, I mean, they just shout out. At one point, they're just shouting out the names of all the remakes. But that was kind of one of the parts I didn't mind so much in the movie. I thought it was cool to hear all those all those names in there. But I'm digressing. The ending of this movie, that's the one that separates it. People either love this movie or they hate it. When they get to the ending, they go, oh, yeah. Or they go, yes. Me, I think that's what sets it apart. So it makes it unlike everything else. Though my good friend Robert W. Fillion tells me the exact opposite. In 2005, The Descent, of course, the original UK unrated version. Like unrated, some big super deal. But yeah, it's definitely a cool gimmick. I like being able to get films that I know are uncut anyway. But wow, my good buddy Dead Otter, aka Red Otter, on IMDb Horror Board recommended this to me years ago, saying, you know, it did everything that we've been talking about on the horror board. It did it all right. It avoided all the problems and did it all right. And this is one of those movies that I love it because it does everything. It has everything. It has the gore, it has the action, it has the suspense, it has the psychological elements. It has, you know, things running around in it. I mean, yeah. The Descent, the original, does it all. It does it well too. Masterfully, one would say. Now I must admit, when I saw this, I thought, man, Neil Marshall, he's going to be it. This is going to be the guy that's going to take us to the next level. But he kind of took his foot off the pedal, so to speak. After making The Descent, he went and made Doomsday after that, and I think he's made a couple other movies since. But no hardcore horror like this. And Wolf Soldiers was good too, but